Hello YouTubers, today or tonight whenever you're watching this, I am doing another Marvel Fox movie review building up to Deadpool and Wolverine, which yes, I know me doing this review on X-Men Days of Future Past on the day that Deadpool basically kinda released in theaters, even though yes it's already in theaters where I'm at, because I checked the times on today and basically it started playing in my theater today at 3 o'clock, leaning all the way down to its last timing, which is 10:30 at night. Um, uh, but, uh, but basically I'm still building up to Deadpool and Wolverine by each review that I'm still doing. And, I had a dentist appointment, so basically I figure on top of not yet done finishing each review for each X-Men movie plus on whatever on top of what other Marvel movie that Fox did review on the side of my dentist appointment, I figured to wait until next Thursday, the following Thursday, next week, following Thursday, that basically I would go see Deadpool and Wolverine then. Because today was my dentist appointment. By then I would have all Marvel Fox movies done and reviewed, or at least the movies and shows that from Marvel Fox I would want to review. But anyway, by the title, this review is on X-Men Days of Future Past. Now, first originally watching this movie, I enjoyed it either other way. But rewatching it over and over and over as a fan of the X-Men movies, I will always enjoy the X-Men movies. Doesn't matter how bad and how good they really are, with most of their flaws anyway. But granted, either other way, with their good side and their bad side, I gotta say, rewatching Days of Future Past, it was, I've now seen more the negative than the positive. I really hate to say it, because when I go to review a movie, even a movie that I do want to enjoy first, then reviewing it, because what I like to do when it comes to my favorite movies, to my favorite like superhero movies, horror movies, and whatever, sit down, enjoy it first, as a normal person would, as a normal fan would, and then go back, rewatch it as a person that's about to review it, because most time it is hard on me to try and do both at the same time, especially if I'm over excited about the movie right there and then, and by the excitement I kind of get blindsided of what to actually pay attention for. So, but reviewing Days of Future Past now and basically knowing the movie by heart, every scene by heart, it's not so much hard for me to physically sit down and review it. And by doing that, I mean, I paid more attention to the bad stuff that the movie had and what it could have been instead of what we got. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still X-Men Days of Future Past is still a good movie either other way, with its flaws and with its good things about it. But I mean, jumping off from the Wolverine, which the review I did yesterday, going into Days of Future Past, they could have played it off so differently, where basically, yes, the post-credit scenes where we find where Magneto, the post-credit scene of the Wolverine is basically where Magneto and Professor X meets Wolverine at an airport, finching him, telling him that they need him to help them save the world from basically the end of it all, of mutants and humans alike. So, which then they could have turned around, went into, like, not jump years on forward into the future, and they could have easily played on where this could have been a part one and part two situation. And Fox would have gotten this story a lot more better if they played off that story. Just like Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Basically like every part one and part two situation with movies. Is that basically they could have continued where the post-card scene of the Wolverine left off. They go back to the mansion, talk about basically the future, the company that's building the Sentinel robots, and basically where the future is gonna head, and how they knew about this, even though it hasn't even happened yet. Even though, yes, I mean the sweet little commercials of Trags. I still can't even say the name. The character that builds the Sentinels, which they could have introduced Cable at the time, and where basically easily explained the whole time travel thing, instead of Wolverine. Not trying to be mean, I am a big Wolverine fan, but Cable would have been, yes, lazy quick writing, but it would have been good writing as well, because it would have easily played in the whole storyline a lot more easier and better. Cable came back in time, try to save the X-Men, because the X-Men and all the human race are doomed to die. And he's there to fix it, to stop it from happening, yada yada yada. And basically we could jump, as we did in this movie, jump from past to future. Like, maybe part one would have been more set in the past still, where basically Cable came back in time. We see a few moments before we actually have Cable, when we have Cable explain how it is in the future, and basically him time traveling, and then we basically turn around, and then basically, so this is basically what's gonna happen. And and then show what the Sentinels look like in the future. This is how it happened, yada yada yada. And basically, and I get why they didn't bring in Cable right away, because I mean the characters of Scott Summers and Jean Grey died, and yes, I know Scott and Jean died in X-Men The Last Stand, the mother and father of Cable, but they still could have brought in Cable in a certain type of way, because in a way, while trying to make Days of Future Past Part 1 and Part 2 good, while redoing everything, by like a soft reboot type of way, that it still could have not been a big deal as the movie we got anyway, because the movie we got anyway is that basically Wolverine, Kitty, played by the same actress, or, well, my bad, actor, because she went from a she to he, because he felt like he was a, anyway, which I'm glad they brought back the original actor that played Kitty in The Last Stand and Iceman, and the same actor that played Colossus in The Last Stand, along with a few new mutant faces as we got introduced in this movie, like I want to say Heat Wave or something like that. Hawk, which it's actually funny knowing the actor they choose to play that character, which I believe it was named Hawk, because the actor they got, it was just so funny to me at the time, because he went from Twilight as one of the wolves in Jacob's wolf pack, and into X-Men Days of Future Past, and then jump into Disney and played as Jay, the son of Jafar, in the movie's Descendants. Which I did do a review on, each movie review on Descendants, by the way, if you guys are curious on that, if most of you guys are Disney fans. But anyway, and then we also get introduced to Bishop, which, yes, he's like big. His powers are really big change compared to how he is in the comics, but it's only one change than how he is in the comics. He has to absorb energy to get his energy blast, unlike he is in the comics and cartoons, that he basically can already do that without needing any energy inside of him. And we get introduced to Blink, which is cool, and I like the action in this movie. Don't get me wrong, the action in this movie is good. The story plot in this movie is good. I do like how they brought back the actors that played the younger versions of Professor X and Magneto from First Class. And basically, yes, the whole storyline is to set that Professor X wanted a kitty cat, wanted the character Kitty, Shadowcat, uh, to send his consciousness back into his younger self. When she told the professor that basically she can't, because technically his mind is so powerful and the mind can only stretch so far as it can before it snaps. So Wolverine volunteered because he was the only one that could survive the trip. Um, and basically he went back in time, got the professor back in line, because I guess from the moment after we see him from first class and tried to have his first tries to open the school, and he lost all his students, lost everything. He was so broken where basically Hank, aka Beast, um, made this made like this medicine, drug, whatever, um, that could help him walk, but Charles takes so much of it where it helps him walk completely, but it takes away his powers because how much he takes of it. And the only reason why Beast offers it to him, because the only reason why he invented the drug is because he didn't really want to walk around all in blue all the time. So he invented the drug for himself, for the blue to disappear, and I'm guessing also his power, like his mutant ability, because I guess his mutant ability got mixed in with the whole blue skin, blue fur look. So, but when Hank gets angry, like the Hulk, he turns into the Beast. And honestly, I really found that dumb. Honestly, like, you might as well should have brought in the Hulk if you're gonna pull that stunt. But I mean, Hank said that he tastes only so much of it, where it keeps his immune ability by bay. So I guess by emotions it kicks in. So again, like the Hulk, which again I really found that stupid, but I let it slide because, like I said, I liked the story plot that they went with. Yes, I liked the conflict of Wolverine trying to convince Charles, like how Charles helped Wolverine through the X-Men movies to remember his past. Um, so watching that while watching Charles and Eric rekindle whatever friendship that they did lost, but rebuilt it again, that was, I did like that part of the storyline. And basically I liked it, the whole storyline of basically it, whatever Wolverine, if the mission does go as planned and everything changes, the only person that would remember the Sentinel War, the loss, the tears, would be him and nobody else. When that kinda isn't true, because as we see in the very end, that basically at the very end when they were able to fix everything, where basically they were able to stop Mystique, because apparently in the past, not the future, the past, Mystique, which, okay, yes, I get it. Fox at that point, knew that they really fucked up on the whole Marvel Fox X-Men timeline type thing, because they had the original 3 X-Men. They did X-Men Origins Wolverine, which, okay, yeah, I'm not trying to disagree on anything, but they didn't really hurt the timeline when they did X-Men Origins Wolverine until they did X-Men First Class, because then they brought in a few mutants that was already in X-Men Origins Wolverine. They kind of messed up the timeline, the beginning timeline a little bit, and so they thought by fixing it after the Wolverine be Days of Future Past, and not really caring at this point of messing up the timeline even more, because they're gonna soft reboot it, and this is the soft reboot to basically scrap everything away. Is that Mystique in the past, Mystique, the younger Mystique, killed the guy that invented the Sentinels, and the government used her DNA, her blood, and everything to push the Sentinels even further, where they could adapt to the mutant they are after, that they're going after. And basically that's why they had to stop Mystique. But Magneto and Professor X told Wolverine, look, you can't just have me, you also need me as well. They had to. So after Logan got Charles, along with not Eric, Hank, because Hank was living with Charles. Logan, Hank, and Charles kind of went after Eric, but before they did, they were trying to figure out how to break him out of the Pentagon, which then that's when Logan brought up Quicksilver, which technically, no, this would not be our first introduction to Quicksilver, because we did get a short scene of him in X-Men Origins Wolverine, but a complete scene throughout parts of the movie with Quicksilver, yes, then yeah, it would be a complete introduction of Quicksilver, which then they went after Magneto to break him out of the Pentagon, which it was a few little funny scenes there, because then after Quicksilver breaks out Magneto, he's like, oh yeah, this and yeah, that, annoying teenager type BS, and then he's like, you know, my mom knew a guy that could control my own, and then seeing Magneto's eyes wide open, he's like, so, realizing, oh shit, this is my son, what should I say? Should I say anything? Well, I was trying to catch his breath, because Quicksilver basically grabbed his shoulder like this, and then his head, and quickly ran to the elevator, which I loved how they did Quicksilver. Yes, I know during the time they hated how they had Quicksilver look, but you know what? He was a funny, good character that was added to the movie, and I love the actor who they choose to play Quicksilver, especially because if you go back during the first Kick-Ass movie and see both actors, the actor that played Kick-Ass and the actor that played Quicksilver in this X-Men, both played in the very first Kick-Ass movie, and what did they both split off and do? Their own version of Quicksilver. The guy that played Kick-Ass in both Kick-Ass movies, obviously, played Quicksilver in the MCU, which, again, that's why they had to kill off Quicksilver but not Scarlet Witch, because Fox wanted to use more of Quicksilver and not Scarlet Witch, because they didn't really care about Scarlet Witch. So they figured, you know what? the MCU could have Scarlet Witch. You can kind of use them for a little bit, just kill them off. We'll use more Quicksilver. So, and then basically going forward, they stop Mystique by the first attack that actually would have actually completed happening, and that actually happened the first time and actually set everything in motion. But since they stopped that, she tried at the very end, showing a somewhat comic book accurate Sentinel, which I didn't mind the designs of the Sentinels in this movie from future to past, because I thought basically they looked really badass. I liked how they could change their form to the mutant they were attacking. But basically, after Magneto escaped from Charles, basically walked away from Charles and tried to kill Mystique by stopping her that way, but failed. Thanks to Wolverine, Hank, and Charles. Charles allows him to deal with his power, to deal with the problem. Wolverine was able to help Charles to get through his fear of losing everything, and that there is hope. And it wasn't just Logan. Logan also had Charles to look into his head and looked for Charles' future, and Charles talked to his older self, Patrick Stewart, something like that. So, and then Charles at the final fight, the final battle, where basically Wolverine tried to get Magneto down, but Magneto put like these bars inside Wolverine's body, where he basically threw Logan so far away from the main battle, and he lands into the ocean. And, so it was just Charles, Hank, and Mystique and Magneto. And before Magneto could kill the president, and basically everybody that was protecting the president, and the guy that invented the Sentinels, which also he before he also did that by having a bunch of guns pointed at the president, the guy. He talked to every mutant. He had every camera pointed at him, talking into the camera to all the mutants around the world, which we got reintroduced into this movie as well. Toad, a different version of Toad, Scott's brother, Havoc. I can't remember his like non-superhero name, but Havoc. I don't know who the rest are, but we also got introduced to a few more new mutants. I also like how the young actress that played young Mystique from First Class also played in Hunger Games. I like how she came back and played the younger version of Mystique. Which I was also happy to see Storm, the original actress that played Storm, come back. Because and then at the very end, once everything was happy ending, Mystique didn't really kill the president or the guy that invented the Sentinels. They stopped Eric, but Charles and Mystique allowed Eric to get away. Charles and Hank went back to the mansion to reopen the school. And Wolverine got found by, as we thought, William Stryker, which, yes, we get reintroduced to a younger version, not a old version, and not a somewhat young/old version. It's a young version of William Stryker that did mention his son about to turn 18 in this movie, Jason. As we thought at the end that that he found Wolverine, but really it was just Mystique in disguise as William Stryker. So, which that part kind of confused me from going from this movie to X-Men Apocalypse. Now, it was cool to see William Stryker in this because we kind of figure out how he got in. Not just, yeah, sure, it could have been just his son and they could have left it off with that, but they pushed it a little bit more where William Stryker got even more interested in mutants by hanging out with the guy that invented the Sentinels, because the guy that built the Sentinels was even more desperate and more fascinated in mutants. And so it kind of helped with that a little bit, even though it wasn't really necessary, but it was still cool. Just my own main hate about this movie is that how lazy they really were and how they really messed up even more with this, is that the timeline, even though at first they didn't really care about the timeline, and then they try to fix the timeline by after X-Men Origins Wolverine and then after First Class, they were still trying to fix the timeline since they brought out those two movies after the original 3 X-Men movies. So that's why everybody thought Days of Future Past would fix all that. It'd be perfect. It'd be fine. No. It just made things worse because Mystique didn't kill the guy that invented the Sentinels in the future. That would make more sense instead of the past, but she killed him in the past, and somehow the rest of the original X-Men movies still came to be. So after this point, after Wolverine got found and saved from being drowned, Wolverine wakes up in the mansion in the future. He sees Beast alive. He sees Storm alive. He sees Stormcat, Colossus, Rogue, which, yes, we were supposed to see Rogue a little bit more, but that was a deleted scene, so we got left with Rogue and Iceman at the end of the movie. So obviously Rogue was still with Iceman, because as we saw at the end of the movie, through Wolverine's eyes. And basically him seeing the whole entire school filled with kids still alive, living like it's a normal everyday school day. And then he sees Jean and then Scott alive, just trying to breathe and take everything all in. And then he sees the professor, and the professor helps him. It helps explain everything, and after he helps explain everything, that's when he kind of joked. But before he helps explain everything, he kind of jokes and said, "Well, I did have a promise to keep, because when Wolverine was still in the past, he had younger Professor X promised Wolverine that that he would look for the X-Men, no matter that. Yes, even though he saw the bad, you still saw the good. The X-Men, everyone, we need you. You gotta bring them together. And even though Charles said, "I'll try my best," your your best is enough. And that's exactly what he did. He had a promise to keep. He brought the X-Men together and the school. And then and then just like in the original 3 X-Men movies, we had narrating, and then just like the original 3 X-Men movies, we had narrating in the beginning, and I think in all 3 X-Men movies, the original X-Men movies, we had narrating, like in the first, second, and third movie of the X-Men movies, of the original 3, it was Professor X narrating. So in the beginning of this one, Patrick Stewart narrating, which it was cool to see that that Fox threw that back into the movies, because in First Class there was no narrating, and obviously in X-Men Origins Wolverine, of course, there would be no narrating, because basically the whole beginning of the movie basically explained it itself. So the only X-Men movie that did not have narrating was X-Men First Class. But the original 3 X-Men, Days of Future Past, and at this moment I want to say X-Men Apocalypse as well, had narrating in the beginning and end. Or at least I want to say at the end of Apocalypse. But I thought it was cool how in the beginning of X-Men Days of Future Past, Patrick Stewart still narrated in the beginning, like he did in the original X-Men movies. And then at the end of X-Men Days of Future Past, the actor that played the younger version of Professor X narrated at the end. And after he narrated at the end, we had a post-credit scene, and the post-credit scene basically leaned into the next movie, which was X-Men Apocalypse. And if you re-watch the post-credit scene, it kind of looked like they were gonna make Apocalypse a chick, and I think they were going to, but since they had Apocalypse as a chick, they had a backlash on that from fans, and fans didn't like it. So since they kind of already did that in the post-credit scene, they leaned away from it and didn't really care, since they already tickled their fetter, whatever, and actually did the correct sex of Apocalypse, even though Apocalypse is, or at least to me, is a robot. Or I think he's supposed to be a cyborg, but to me, he's more robot than anything. Um, uh, but tomorrow's review is on the first Deadpool movie, so keep an eye for that. Tomorrow, the first Deadpool movie. Uh, if I missed anything, drop it in the comments down below, and I would basically mention that, like if you have a question on a certain scene or whatever, then just drop it in the comments down below, and I'll answer it. If you're a newcomer dropping by randomly one of my videos, please hit that subscribe button. I welcome all new and old subscribers with open arms. If you're a old original subscriber, welcome back. I appreciate you guys always keep coming back. If you liked this video, hit that like button. If you didn't like this video, hit the dislike button. I feel like I missed something of mentioning of the movie. Yeah, so also drop in the comments down below anything Marvel, anything X-Men. Feel free. Have a nice day, have a nice night whenever you're watching us. Peace.